Hey. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to our Thursday evening beginners sharpening workshop. My name is Owen. Welcome to Knifewear Vancouver. As always, I'm joined by Fran. Say hi, Fran. Oh, yeah, Fran's on here. Yeah. I got my homie Jordan. Say hi, Jordan.
Hey, guys. What's up?
Hey, how's it going? Be nice to Jordan. It's his first time doing this. Hey, say hi, Ryan. Hi, Ryan's just eating noodles over there. You don't need to worry about him.
Well, Blankbag's here already. He says, hey, guys.
Hey, Blank. How's it going, Doctor? Good to see y'all. So today we're going to be focused on our basic sharpening criteria. So we're going to talk about stones. We're going to talk about knives. We're going to talk about sharpening and all of the sort of beginner's entry stuff. And then after that, we are going to hit up some chukabocho, Chinese cleavers. If you've never sharpened one of those before, I'll give you some tips on how to take care of those guys. Cool. Let's roll. Oh, I got beer.
We got beer.
We got delicious beer from our pals over at Four Winds in Delta, BC. Having some featherweight IPAs. They're fucking delicious.
Sound good.
Mm-hmm. So follow along, drink along if you want to. Welcome, welcome. Let's get going. I am going to sharpen this. This is a knife. This is a Haruyuki Kokuto Santoku. Kokuto, made by Haruyuki, is one of our favorites here at the shop. It's forged out of Ginsan steel. This guy is basically my go-to for like gifts, right? This is a rad knife. It's $1.89. It's got a nice wah handle with a pack of wood collar. It's got a nice Nishiji finish. Ginsan steel is super easy to work with. I like it a lot because it is quite hard, so it holds an edge really well, but it's also quite ductile. So it's pretty chip resistant. Pretty easy going knife all around. And we're just going to give this guy a quick touch up here today. So Japanese steel versus European steel. Big difference, right? Japanese knife like this one is very, very hard. The harder your steel is, the thinner you can make the knife. So this guy, I like to sharpen it around a 15-degree angle, somewhere in that neighborhood, where European steel, I prefer sharpening it around a 22-degree angle. The 22-degree angle is a little bit wider, right? So the edge sort of looks a bit more like that, where the Japanese one is a bit more narrow. If I took a Western-style knife and I ground it really, really thin like that, that hard steel would cut really nicely, but just for a little while, because it's softer. If you repeatedly hit it against cutting boards and food and stuff like that, the edge is going to start to go away pretty fast. But if you have a nice hard Japanese knife, you can go at a much thinner angle and your edge will hold up for a lot longer. Make sense? So the stones that I'm going to work with today, I've got my Knifewear 220. That's the starting stone. I've got my Knifewear 1000 and I got my Knifewear 4000. We're going to start on this 220 grit. The number attached to these stones, grit, is basically shorthand for how abrasive they are. The lower the number, the more abrasive they are, right? So something like this guy, I can feel it with my fingers. It's very coarse, like sandpaper. So this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to start grinding out my edge this way. This guy is pretty coarse. So a lot of people ask, how do I know if I want to soak my stones or not? And the answer is really simple. Just listen to what your stone's telling you. This is another 220. It's the exact same grit stone, but this guy has not been soaking at all. This is fresh. Now, if I pour some water onto this guy, it just absorbs right in. You can see how quickly it dries out there. This is a very, very thirsty stone, right? Whereas the one that was soaking for a little while, if I pour water onto this, it just all flows right off. So some stones are very thirsty. They require a little bit of a soaking period before you get going, and your stone will tell you if that's necessary. This is a Naniwa Pro 3000 grit. And if I pour water onto this, it just beads right off. This is what's called a magnesioid stone. It's a splash and go stone, so you do not need to soak this. In fact, if you do soak a stone like this for an excessive amount of time, it is going to start to deteriorate. It's going to break down the abrasives and it's going to start to fall apart on you. So don't soak a stone unless you really need to. So let's start on this 220. This is one of my favorites. This is going to do some pretty quick grinding, and it's going to give me a nice foundation for my edge. If your knife is quite dull, if it's got chips in it, you definitely need to have a 220 grit to start out with. So I want to sharpen this at around a 15-degree angle. I've done this a couple of times, so I sort of know what a 15-degree angle feels like. But if you're having trouble trying to gauge what that angle is, there's a few tips that I can give you. My most trusted companion here at the shop are my nickels. These are just basic nickels. I have 4 of them. I'm going to use these guys to gauge out my angle. Basically 5 cents per degree. So 1, 2, 3, 15 cents, 15 degrees. And then I have one that I place directly behind it. I'm going to sort of angle my knife perpendicular to the stone, directly behind that spacer nickel, which I then drag out of there and set aside. And then I pop my knife down onto those nickels, and that's giving me an approximate 15-degree angle right there, right? Pretty easy to do. If you have a smartphone, if you have an iPhone, you can certainly use the Measure app, and that can sort of act as like an angle caliper as well. Really easy to work with. We also carry this product here. This is called a toe grip, and it's basically a big clip that you put onto the back and the spine of your knife, and it'll just set your angle for you. Really good training wheels. But for today, I'm just going to use those nickels. They're trusty, they're tried and true, and they obviously don't cost a lot. So 3 nickels for my 15 degrees, 1 nickel in the middle here. I'm going to pop my knife perpendicular to the stone and remove the spacer, and then lay my knife down onto those guys. There we go. Easy peasy, right? That's about 15 degrees. So this angle, this 15-degree angle, you don't need to be perfect, right? The perfection is the enemy of the good. So as long as you get into the right ballpark and you sort of stick to it and you're nice and consistent, you should be able to get a nice edge on your knife. But don't worry too much. As long as you're in the right area, you'll be fine. By the way, guys, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, just fire them into the comments, and my homie Jordan will relay them over to me. Water is your friend. Always have a nice source of clean water nearby, just to keep that stone nice and lubricated. And I'm going to start sharpening my knife here. 15 degrees. So my right hand is going to hold the knife because I am right-handed. My left hand is going to apply some gentle pressure onto the area of the knife that I want to start sharpening. It's pretty simple. I put the knife down on the stone at my angle. I have the knife sort of at a 45-degree angle here across the stone because that's very comfortable for me. I like to be able to put my elbows down, be able to do some nice comfortable movement. And I'm going to go back and forth and back and forth. This is really, really simple. Back and forth, back and forth. Try to keep that angle nice and steady. Lock up your wrist and move more from your elbow and your bicep. That's going to help you keep that angle nice and steady. These 3 fingers that are on my knife, I don't actually want them hanging over the edge of the blade. I don't want to be rubbing my fingers against the stone. This stone is designed to cut steel. It will cut your fingers very, very fast. It's a condition we call stone finger here at the shop, and it is an epidemic. Don't get stone finger. Keep your fingers off of that stone.
It sucks.
It sucks. So I'm going to take a few strokes, nice, gentle, back and forth, and go nice and slow. You don't need to apply a lot of pressure. You paid $42 for this stone. Let it do its job. Notice how I'm trying to use the stone nice and evenly too. More on that later, but you want to try to wear down your stone as evenly as possible. That's about 10, 15 strokes. I'm going to dry this guy off. Grab yourself a rag, dry it off. And I'm going to feel for something called burr. So while I'm rubbing my knife against the stone, some of the steel is coming off and it's blending in with the water and it's just dripping into the bucket. But some of the steel is getting pushed into a new shape. It's still attached to the knife, and I'll feel it as burr hanging over the edge. It feels like a little wire off the edge of your knife. So put your fingers on the face of the knife that you weren't sharpening, or your thumb, and just drag your fingers off of there and try to feel a little lip of steel. If you're having trouble feeling it, check up at the top of the knife too. See if you feel anything up there. See if this feels different in the spot that you were sharpening. If you feel that nice wire burr, that means that you have completed your task. You have reached the apex of the edge, and there's now some steel hanging over. So we can move into the next little section here.
A question from Mark Laporte. How often do you chew the stone?
I'll get to that very soon. Basically, if you have a low grit stone like this, 200 grit is not the hardest stone in the world. I like to true it after every 2 to 4 knives. The higher the grit, generally speaking, the less you have to true it, but it's always a good idea to give them a little touch up after 2 to 4 knives. Feel for your burr. It can be very helpful to dry your knife off before you feel for burr as well. You can hear that there. Yeah, got some nice burr moving along this guy, so I'm going to keep moving on up. It might take you longer to develop a burr on your knife. A lot of factors go into how long it's going to take to develop the burr. The thickness and the dullness of the knife is a big one. The type of steel that you're working with, that's a big one. Fatter knives made out of like powder steel or something like that, those might take a little bit longer to start to feel that burr. Just be consistent and keep working at it. So the tip of the knife can be a little bit tricky for some people because the tip sort of ekes up a little bit and it reaches away from the stone. So what I like to do it sort of spread my fingers across the blade. So I've been working in little clusters so far. But when I get to the tip, I like to put my ring right at the tip, middle finger in the middle of the belly, and then my index finger right where the blade is sort of flat. I put my hands back down on the stone, and as I go backwards, I sort of lift up my elbow here. I sort of lift it up and point the knife down towards the stone, and I flatten as I reach back down. Lift, flatten, lift, flatten. You want to make sure you're getting that blade road. That's the part of the knife that's touching the stone. You want to make sure you get that blade road all the way up to the tip. Sort of a nice swooping kind of motion there. Keep going here. There we go. Beautiful.
Yeah, I can even hear the burr. I can sit down.
Yeah. So there we go. There's one side A. Side A is all done from the chin to the tip. Go back and check your work though. Feel for that burr all the way along. You want it to be nice and consistent from the toe to the tip. There we go. Looks good. And you can also take a look. Look at the work that you've done there. Take a look at the blade road that you've created. See if it looks consistent to the eye. See if the thickness of the blade road is consistent from the back to the front. If you're satisfied, we can move on. So this is a 50-50 ground knife, meaning that the bevel is the same on both sides of the blade. So now I'm going to simply flip the knife over and do the other side. Some people work left-handed or off-handed, which I find extremely awkward. So I started here. I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to continue there. You can take your coins and do the exact same thing. Stack of 3 and your spacer. You're going to remove that spacer and drop that knife onto those coins, and you can get your angle, your rough angle that way. And we're going to pretty much do the exact same thing, just on the other face of the knife. Nice back and forth motion. So using your stone nice and evenly here is really important. You'll notice I'm taking very sort of long, deliberate strokes, trying to use this evenly, because I want to keep my stone relatively flat while I'm working. If I were just to do this, one little section, I'd develop and dig a big old trench right into the stone there. So I want to avoid that by using as much of the stone as I can comfortably do.
Chat seems pretty quiet today.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Maybe they got all other systems in our brand new Knifewear Discord. Whoa! Oh, yeah. Check out Knifewear on Discord. We got all sorts of topics.
Yeah, take a look at how they're doing over there right now.
So I got burr all the way from the chin to the tip. And you'll notice, after you've done both sides of your knife, the burr on this side has mysteriously disappeared. That's because I ground it off on this stone. So now you should only ever have burr on one side of your knife. There we go. 220 grit, just like that. All done. Done sharpening, right? Wrong. 220 grit is a very, very low grit stone. If I looked at the edge of this knife under a microscope right now, it would look like a mountain range. It would be really craggly. If I cut this paper with it, it's getting the job done, but you can hear this sound. Really, really rough, right?
Scratchy.
Scratchy, scratchy, scratchy. So this is a sharp knife, but it's more like a serrated knife right now. It's got this sort of serrated edge along it. If you were to slice a tomato with this guy, it would get through, but then the tomato would start leaking juices all over the place because you haven't actually sliced it. You've torn it, basically. You've torn it to shreds. So we're going to move on to our 1,000 grit stone. 220, 1,000, 4,000 is sort of our basic house progression here. On a knife like this, I like to finish it at a 4,000. But if this was like a Sujihiki or a Gyudo and I was going to cut meat, then I would go all the way up to an 8,000 grit polish because I want that edge to be super smooth. Something fragile like tenderloin or bluefin tuna or something along those lines, I want to make sure it stays nice and moist and juicy. So I like to get as high of a grit and polish as I can get on there.
Mark's got another question for us. How often do you use a 220 stone?
I don't use it every single time I sharpen. My 220 is more or less reserved for when knives are quite dull because I don't like to remove this much steel on a super regular basis. If you have a chip, if you need to thin your knife, if your knife is like a hammer, then you go down to the 220. But most of the time, you can start on a 1000. This is the Knifewear 1000 grit. This is a very, very clutch stone here at the shop. We use it pretty much every day. It's awesome for doing micro bevels and the type of sharpening we're doing here today. It's a great finishing stone for European knives, but it's also a very important tool for doing what's called a Kasumi finish. The foggy finish along the primary bevel of the blade. And if you have more questions about primary bevel sharpening and knife finishes, you should tune in tomorrow on this exact same channel and check out Naoto's advanced sharpening class, because that's what he specializes in. We got the basics here. Naoto's got all the super nerdy stuff, and he is a absolute wealth of knowledge if you're interested in getting into a deep dive in sharpening. So this stone is very important. You'll see him bust it out quite frequently, but it also works great for the type of sharpening we're doing here today. Also, it's only 46 bucks. It's a really, really good quality, easy to afford stone. For the 1000 grit is about 4 times smoother than a 220 grit, right? You can tell by the numbers. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to set up my angle the exact same way. 3 nickels, 1 nickel as a spacer. I'm going to put my knife perpendicular to that spacer. Remove it, and you can flop your knife over, and that gives you your angle. I'm going to start working here. So it's going to give you a very different sort of sound and feedback on this guy. A lot smoother, a lot less scritchy scratchy. I'm going to double check my edge as I work. I'm still feeling for that burr. You should be able to feel burr quite clearly even on this 1000 grit stone.
Cloud Burst in the Coffee Cup says, our knife company's YouTube programs are very informative and entertaining.
Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell so you never miss a video. So I'm going to do pretty much the exact same thing that I just did on a different stone. Consistency is the most important thing. It's also one of the things that you're going to have to do the most practice at to get good at. Sorry, there's no fast way around it. Practice makes perfect. You know what they say.
Is the burr going to feel the same on this stone?
It's going to feel a little bit less strong, right? I'm not moving steel at the same rate that I was before, and that's by design. I don't want to be grinding that much steel off. I've already built the foundation of my house, so now I just want to start sprucing it up inside a little bit, right? So I feel burr, not quite as big, but it's still quite present. It gets tough to feel for burr when you're working with much higher grit stones, like a 3000 or a 5000 or something like that, but I'll give you a trick a little bit later on that too.
Blank Blank says, I want to get some new stones. I'm bored with all the ones I have. I shouldn't waste my money though. Oh.
I don't know about that, Blank. If it makes you happy, is it really a waste?
Never a waste.
Never a waste. It's okay to collect stuff. I collect knives. I collect man. Jordan and I were listening to some of my records at the shop today. I actually, I collect knives, I collect stones, but I also collect video game soundtracks on vinyl. There.
Sweet.
I said it.
It's cool.
I'm out in the open now. We were listening to Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Like and subscribe if you're into Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Trevor S. has got a question for us. Hey guys, would you be able to describe what an aggressive burr versus a proper burr would feel like?
So an aggressive burr is something that's going to feel really, really, really rough and scaly and almost kind of flaky and fragile. Because you've taken off a lot of steel with that 220 grit, if you can sort of feel it fold around on your fingers, that means that it's big and long, and you've probably gone a little bit overboard. But if it feels like a little tiny stiff wire stuck to the edge of your knife, that's sort of the burr that you're looking for. If I'm doing a repair and I'm taking off a lot of steel, what's happening is I'm grinding my knife against my stone over and over, and I get all this flaky, almost foil-looking stuff coming off of the edge, and I can almost pull some of it off with my fingers, right? You don't want that. If you're just doing basic sharpening, you don't want to be taking that much off. So it should feel very stiff. You shouldn't be able to move it around with your hands. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense, yeah. So I've got a nice stiff burr all down my blade here. I'm going to take another look at my edge. Looks nice. I can see a nice polish from the chin to the tip. I'm going to compare it to the other side, where I've only done that 220. And it's hard to see on camera, but this side that I've done my 1000 on is much foggier and smoother looking. This is all scratchy on my 220 side. So it's time to flip my knife over.
Hey, Nathan's dropped into the chat.
Who?
Nathan.
Who?
Nathan. You know who Nathan is?
Who?
Actually, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Whatever.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan. He says he digs the Castlevania soundtrack. Is it the pressing from Mondo?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, Mondo and Data Discs, I think, do the best video game soundtracks on vinyl. If you want to chat about that, you can join our Discord. There's a whole music section on the Discord, and I'm posting what records we're listening to here at the shop every day, in case you're curious. But let's sharpen. So I got the burr raised up on the right side of my 1000. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on my left side. You can grab your nickels. You can measure again if you want to. I would suggest it if you're in doubt. Always measure twice and cut once. And here we go. I'm going to start working my way up this guy.
Fighting Music says, where's the apron? What have you done with the real Owen?
Oh, shit. Where's my apron? It's too late now. We're moving on.
Next time.
Yeah, next time.
Oh, Nathan's got the exact same one.
Apron?
No, record.
Oh, sweet. Nathan, I didn't know how cool you were until this very moment. I got 1, 2, and 3. I also got the Mondo pressing of Contra, which I'm very proud of. But I digress. I'm working on that tip. The tip of the knife is, again, the hardest part. I like to spread my fingers out from my ring, middle, and index, sort of where the knife starts to eke up off of the stone there. And as I lift, I pull my elbow up just a little bit, and then I lower it. Lift and lower. Go nice and slow. Make sure that you're getting all the way up to the tip. Oftentimes, you need to lift up a little bit more than you think you do, but you also don't want to jam the tip of the knife into the stone, right? So take a little time, take a little practice, go nice and slow. Rome wasn't built in a day. And again, try to use that stone. Try to use all, you paid for it, you might as well use it. There we go, nice burr, all the way up. So what I'm gonna do now is I wanna test out my edge just a little bit. I'm not done, but I just wanna make sure that I'm on the right track. So I'm gonna remove that burr that I've created just right on my stone. I was sharpening this side, I'm gonna flip the knife over and just do a couple of edge leading strokes at that 15 degrees. That should do it. Still feel a little burr, but it's not really that big anymore. And I'm gonna give it a quick test. When in doubt, grab some newspaper, test out your knife. Try to go horizontally along with the lettering on the newspaper. Big difference from that 220. I can still hear it a little bit. Microphone actually picks it up really well. But that's a nice 1000 grit edge. That's a pretty sharp knife right there. I can take a look at all of these cuts that I'm making, and I see that they're nice and smooth and even. That's great. That's what you're aiming for. But we can be better. We can always be better. First things first, though, I have to take care of my stones. I've done a lot of sharpening here today, so it's time to true this guy out.
Truing? How do you do that? Well,
Jordan, I'll tell you how to true your stone. First, you'll need a truing stone. Or, if you're fancy, you need a diamond plate. Truing stone, silicon carbide, diamond plate. Diamond. Diamond is very abrasive. This is a very low grit diamond plate. They are the best tool for truing out your stones. They are $150. They're not screwing around, right? They're perfectly flat. They don't wear out quickly. This guy comes almost flat, right? It comes flat enough. It's a little bit small. It can be a little bit trickier to work with, but it's only $34. So if you're, casually sharpening, you should probably just pick up one of these. If you want to get serious, though, you definitely want to grab a diamond plate. They're the absolute best tool for the job. I'm also going to grab my trusty Knifewear pencil, $75 Knifewear pencil. Just kidding. And I'm going to draw a grid. Anything, basically. I usually just draw a little diagonal grid on my stone. You just want to have some nice coverage on this guy. Whoops. There we go, graph paper. So this grid is going to act as a topographical map of where my stone is high and where my stone is low, right? I'm going to put it back down on my station here, and I'm going to very carefully grab my truing stone, a little bit of water on that guy, and I'm going to start moving in an elliptical motion all over this thing. And very soon I will begin to see exactly what's going on here. Take a look. So we can see where I use the stone the most, right in the middle. This stuff ground off fast, this stuff did not. So it was higher here, it's lower here. So you want to keep going until it's all gone. Which I'm not going to do because I'm lazy and I want to move on with the class. Diamond stone works a lot faster, but be careful, it's a little bit suctiony. So move slowly, don't try to go too fast with it. It's also a very good idea when you're all done to bevel off the corners of your stone, just like that. That's going to give you a little bit less of a sharp edge on there so you don't nick your fingers on it. There we go. Nice beveled off corners there. So pretend that I just trued the whole thing. And we're going to move on. This is the Knifewear 4000 grit, and it is filthy. This is a filthy, filthy boy.
What do we need to do to clean it up?
I don't know, man. What should I do? First, I'm going to wipe it off. I'm going to see if it... Oh, no. No, this isn't working, Jordan. What should I do? Oh, no, it's got all this gunk on it. What do? I got a gunky stone. Should I true it? Nah, I'm not going to true it. It's already pretty flat. I'm just going to grab my Nagura. So first things first, I'm going to get a stone holder. Because Naguring, you definitely want to have a stone holder. You want it to be nice and steady. I'm going to put on this stone holder. Knifewear stone holder, 33 bucks. There we go. Nice and secure. I'm going to get some water on this guy, and I'm going to grab my trusty Nagura stone. So a Nagura stone, or a dressing stone in English, is basically like a very fine truing stone. What it does is it takes off the very top layer of the stone and frees up all that gunkety goop that's trapped inside there. That's all it takes. Naguras can also be used for all sorts of advanced techniques. You know what to do if you want to watch advanced techniques tomorrow. Naoto, advanced sharpening, Naoto's nerdy power hour. There we go. Nice and clean. It feels really, really nice after you Nagura. It feels really nice. Nice and smooth. So there we go. All ready to rock and roll with this guy. So this 4000 grit stone is very, very smooth. I'm now sort of moving away from grinding stones and moving into polishing stones. So I'm not going to be taking off a great deal of steel with a stone like this. It's more just for refining the edge that I've already built. So I've already done the work. Now I just need to make it pretty. A little bit of water on the stone. This is a splash on stone, so I did not have it soaking. That's very important. You're going to measure your angle the same way. You can use your coins, 3 nickels, 1 nickel, perpendicular to the stone. Remove the 1 spacer nickel. There you go. There's your angle. And I'm going to begin to work here. Now, I did remove the burr of this knife a little bit earlier. It's very important to remove the burr when you transition from your lower grit or medium grit stones up to your finer grit stones. So we want to make sure that our burr is gone for that. I'm going to start moving back and forth nice and gentle here. A little bit scratchy there. A little bit of sandy. So feeling for burr on this stone can be a little bit difficult. This is a very fine stone. Like I said, I'm not grinding steel around, but I am moving a little bit of it. You can feel for burr a little bit differently. I'm going to dry this guy off. It's very important. Hold it like so, straight up and down. I'm working on this side of the knife, so I should have a burr coming up in that direction, right? So if I feel this side, that feels really, really sharp. If I feel that side, that does not really feel that sharp at all. This thumb is catching on that angle. This thumb is going with the angle. So I'm not really feeling that sharpness here. I am over here. That is indicative that you got a burr and you can move on. You can also start to see a little bit of steel, a little bit of gray getting worked off onto the stone. You can see a little bit of that sludgy stuff that swarf starting to build up there. That's also a pretty good indicator that you can move on to the next section. And all the way up at the tip. Lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower.
Yeah, Mark's pointed out that it sounds quieter in each stone. That is bound to happen.
Can you say that again?
It does sound quieter in each stone as you go up.
Sound what on each stone?
Quieter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's totally normal. Yeah, when you're scratching down on those low grit stones, you're rubbing into a lot of sand and grit, so it makes a lot more noise, a lot more friction. I flip my knife over and do the other side. You might hear a little bit of scratch when you switch sides because you got burr on your knife there. It's just got to come off, but it'll go away. There we go. Lifting and lowering for that tip. I'm not going to work my way back down. I'm going to do 2 passes on this guy because I feel like I wasn't thorough enough on the first one.
Everyone's commenting about the apron. It's missing. There's chat's sad.
Look, guys, it's an apron. Okay, it's fine. I'm still here for you. It's still me. These fucking people, you know. All right, there's my 4,000. Again, I'm going to remove that burr, just sort of roughly on my stone there. Couple of strokes. There you go. That's a good cursory way to remove big burr on your knife. And I'm going to test it, like I always do. Very nice and smooth. But I'm not done. I'm almost done, but I'm not there quite yet. Let us strop. It is time to strop, everyone. Here at the shop, if you bring me a knife, I will sharpen it. That's part of my job. Regardless of what knife you bring me, I will always sharpen it, and then I will always strop the knife. Stropping is extremely important if you are interested in sharpening, judging by the fact that you are right now watching a sharpening video on YouTube or Facebook is indicating to me that you're probably kind of interested in sharpening. So you should probably get a strop. This is 69 bucks. This is a double-sided strop. It has suede, and this one doesn't have leather on it, but most of them do. The ones that we sell have leather on it. They are very important if you want your knife to be as sharp as humanly possible. Most people, when they buy a knife, they just get, one of the ceramic rods that we sell, and those guys are fantastic. But those guys are a little bit coarse. Like, they're easy to use, they're inexpensive, you can't really fuck it up, and it does a good job for casual cooks and chefs. But if you really want to dial it in, you got to get a strop for sure. So basically, the way a strop's work, it's going to do a couple things at the same time. It is going to remove the burr that I've created, and it's also going to polish up my edge a little bit. It's going to reach into the peaks and valleys because I've been touching this on hard stuff. It hasn't been getting really deep into the crevasses of the edge, and it's going to push any very small burr back into place. This material that I got here, this is my suede side that I've treated with Jeweler's Rouge, called chromium oxide, Jeweler's Rouge, Koyo, and that is also polishing the edge up a little bit as I work.
I got a question. What's the main difference between stropping and honing? So
honing is just referring to any sort of preventative maintenance to keep your knife in good shape. Honing rods, you can hone on a high grit stone, you can hone on a strop, but stropping just refers to stropping. Stropping is a type of honing, but honing is not a type of stropping. Does that make sense? The strop is like the ultimate way to hone your knife. Yeah?
Stropping is safer than apron, says Trevor. They're not giving that up.
God's sakes. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I'm, this is, if only I was wearing an apron. Don't bring me my apron. You better not be bringing me my apron.
Right. People demand it. The people have spoken.
There, are you happy now? Are you not entertained? God's sakes, I can't believe I'm doing this.
I should read some of these comments after stream.
I work and I work and I work. And what do I have to show for it? Just a whole bunch of people barking at me about what I'm wearing. I'm more than just an apron. Not by much, though, I guess, huh? Oh, I'm going to go home and eat my feelings. There you go. There you go. You dorks. There's my apron. All right. Can I move on now? Are you happy now? All right. Stropping. Back to the important stuff. I'm working at the same angle at which I was sharpening. If you like, you can grab your coins and you can sort of measure on this guy. but you should only be going away, right? You don't want to be cutting into the strop. You should always be going away, and you want to work in little sections just like you did with the stone. You want to make sure you're doing both sides as well. And you can strop for a long time. You can strop and you can strop and you can strop and you can strop, and your knife will just get better and better and better and better. There is no ceiling on this except for how much you value your time. You cannot overdo it with stropping because I'm literally not removing any, or not enough steel to bother talking about.
Nathan says, "Whoa, good to see you, Owen."
Wow. You too, huh? Hey, too, Nathan?
Nathan.
There we go. That should feel pretty friggin' smooth now. Let's give it a quick test. Pretty smooth. Yeah, that feels great. There we go. Ease peas. That's how you sharpen a knife. Just that easy. Really, though, it's not that difficult. If you're learning how to sharpen a knife and you're not getting great results, just keep practicing. I find that it's pretty easy to pick it up and get some results pretty early on. But then it's something that's really hard to master and really sort of get all of the minutia and all the details and all the, you know, nerdy advanced stuff. But there you go. That's it. It's your basic knife sharpening. I use 3 stones. I use the strop. You could even just use 2 stones. You could also just strop on your pants. You can strop, if you got a nice apron, you can strop on your apron. But yeah, there you go. Super simple.
I got a question from Lobby Nord. How long do these strops last in general?
Super long time, as long as you take care of them. Just like everything else in life, it's all up to you. You can see on my strop here, it is a little bit of an ugmo. I got some, it's peeling off here. And that's because we move too fast and we're careless with them. That's just straight up. You can make one of these guys last a lifetime if you take care of it properly. The leather side, you can always treat with a little bit of leather milk. That brings them back to life. You can get that at like a hardware store at Lee Valley or something like that. Just be nice to it. Be nice to it and it'll be nice to you. Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about the mighty Chukabocho.
Ooh.
This knife is fucking sick. This is my Makusta Chukabocho. Makusta is a company based out of Seki. They make absolute stunners. They make great pocket knives. They make great kitchen knives. This is their Chukabocho. This guy's $404. They're not screwing around, but it is worth every penny because this guy is thin. So this is a Japanese-made Chukabocho. Chukabocho literally means Chinese knife in Japanese. If you have like a big CCK or a big like Chinese-made cleaver, they're typically a little bit wider in the bevel than these guys. They're a little bit more like geared towards like fish heads, and you can do some meat cutting with them. They're also great for veggies, but this is a really thin one from Makusta, so I wouldn't want to do any sort of rougher stuff with this guy. I'd want to use it mostly for vegetables and chopping. This knife is made from VG10. It's got a nice pack of wood handle. It feels phenomenal. These guys do laser cutting. Really nice work. So the key to sharpening a knife like this, it's basically the same as what we were just doing, to be completely honest. Judge your steel. If you have softer steel, work at a higher angle. If you got harder steel like mine, work at a lower angle. But it's important to recognize that this knife is shaped very differently. So it can be a little bit deceiving thinking about what angle you're working at. When I have my Kokuto, where did I just put that? Right here. And I'm working at a 15-degree angle. Like it sort of looks like that, right? You can see just a little bit of daylight between the stone and the knife. If I like try to make this look like that, that's a really low angle there. You got to remember that this knife is tall, so it's going to come up a little bit higher. You should be working at a bit of a higher angle than you think you are. Measure with those coins, and you'll see, because this knife is so much taller, it comes up a lot higher. That makes sense, right? So don't go at too low of an angle. You want to be working at a little bit of a higher angle than you think you do. Other than that, it's actually pretty easy to sharpen a knife like this. They're really, really tall, and they're really flat. So when you're working against the stone, go at a bit of a higher angle than you think you need to, and just really, really gentle back and forth on this guy. Some Chukabocho are actually like 2 knives in 1 knife. You see one of those yet, Jordan? The ones that they have 2 different primary bevels on them. So they start out thick in the back and they come down narrow in the front. And it's pretty easy to tell. Like when you look at it, it'll be like a split right down the middle. You'll have 2 different, very distinct blade roads on there. And just follow the way that they're ground by the manufacturer in that case. It's also important to relax. Some of them are big, some of them are heavy. So you want to make sure that you have a very nice posture. You'll notice my knife is sort of always at a 45-degree angle when I'm doing the right face because I want to be comfortable with my knife. I don't want to be putting myself into weird positions, especially when you're working with a big awkward tool like a big Chukabocho or a long Sujihiki. You want to make sure that you're working consistently and you want to make sure that you're comfortable while you're doing so. There's no tip on this knife either, so that makes it really easy to do the tip, right? It's just totally flat. You don't need to do any lifting or lowering of your elbow there. Keep that angle consistent and keep it a little bit higher than you think that you need to. That's my advice. Chukabochos are dope knives, by the way. I personally have myself a Tojiro Chukabocho. It's not super dissimilar from this one. I use it for so much stuff. It's sort of my go-to in my kitchen for chopping up like cabbages and daikon and larger vegetables in general. The Tojiro one that I have, you can probably find them on the website. I don't have one to show you because we're sold out right now. But they're like a little bit wider ground, so you can like do dum-dum stuff with them. They're really versatile blades, and I would recommend snapping one up if you're curious about it, because you can get the Tojiro ones for, what were they, like 75 bucks?
Yeah.
80 bucks? Yeah, they were really fantastic, yeah. Any questions?
Any questions, guys?
Yeah.
Seems like everyone's still harping on you for the apron, but other than that.
Christ, guys, come on.
Questions, guys, questions.
Yeah. I'm wearing the apron. Your monkey is dancing for you. Thanks for coming out for the garage sale, guys. And I should also mention, if I have any friends who are watching us on the east side of the country right now, tomorrow, Ottawa's back in business. Congratulations, Ontario. You can open back up again. So you can go and say hi to Lordy and Alex and all the folks there. They're really happy to be back at work, and they missed you. They're getting squirrely over there. I've been calling them every couple of days just to make sure they haven't killed each other yet. Those poor guys trapped in that building together.
How long has it been?
Man, they shut down in, oh geez, I want to say like March. It's been a while. Ooh. Yeah, I might be wrong about that. I might be a little bit less time, but yeah, they've been cabin fevering out in that building.
Yeah, show them some love, guys. If you're in the area, drop by. Samuel Chen says there are some Chukabocho knives that have more of a rounded versus straight edge. Would you sharpen it any different?
If the profile is a little bit more rounded, like it has a smile like that, there's a couple of different ways. You can either work in smaller sections, sort of working in little sections with a couple of fingers, or you can do it like I do the tip of my knife, where I sort of spread my fingers out and work in sort of a crescent type motion. Really, it depends on how comfortable you are with moving your elbow up and down like that. But I think it's a better way to do it because it saves time and it ensures that you get a more consistent angle. So practice with that. Yeah, those guys can be a little bit tricky. And those are often like the big ones that I see that are like that. And when you're working with a large knife like that, it's so important to have your posture correct and make sure that you're not straining yourself in any way. So elbows down by your side, hold the knife at a nice comfortable angle. Make sure that the table that you're working on is an appropriate height too. We actually have 3 separate stations here because we have, a diverse staff of different heights of people. I like to work at the big one. Ayumi likes to work at the smaller one. Set it up so that you're cozy. By the way, this red bucket over here, we sell these now. This is friggin' awesome. They fit our sink bridges really well. They're $29 for the sharpening bucket here.
Speaking of setups, Mark's got a question. Do we have sharpening sets for beginners? I think we do online. Yes.
If you pop onto the website and you go to the Sharpening Stones tab, there will be some sets. There are quite a few sets. Some of them feature our combination stones, and those are really good budget stones. They're made at Naniwa, Vietnam. They are not the best stones that we sell, but it's $45 to $48 for dual stones. And those guys are awesome if you're just starting out and cutting your teeth. If you want to dive in, though, I would recommend maybe looking at the Knifewear brand stones. Those are made at Naniwa, Japan, and those guys are a little bit higher quality. They cut steel faster. They're easier to keep flat. And if you want to get kind of crazy, I would look at the Naniwa Pros or Sharpens to start out. And there are some sets built for all of those guys. If you have any questions, too, while you're perusing the website and you see that little pop-up come up and says, hey, this is Owen, hey, this is Ellie, is there anything I can help you with? Be nice to that pop-up because it actually comes to us, and we will help you out via help desk online.
Great question, Mark. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I guess we nailed it, eh? What time are we at here?
We are at 6:59.
Man, right on time, right on schedule. Look at us. Yeah.
There are some Chinese chefs that tend to sharpen one side of the steeper angle than the other. Is there a good reason to do this?
Yeah, an asymmetrical edge, the biggest advantage I find is that it gives you a different kind of food release. If you have one edge that's a little bit more narrow and one that's a little bit wider on that side, it tends to peel the food off. And if you're slicing potato, it's going to stick a little bit less. It's a handed bias, so if you're a lefty, you'd have to do it the opposite way. I prefer sharpening at a 50-50 angle, however, because I find that it's easier for me to cut straight with that 50-50 grind. Any knives that have more angle on one side are going to sort of drive to the other side a little bit, like a single beveled knife, right? Better food release, but you have to correct when you're slicing with it, which I'm not actually super crazy about. I really prefer just doing a straight 50-50.
Blank's got a fun question. What's your favorite soup?
Soup?
Yeah,
favorite soup. That's a good fucking question, Blank. Favorite? What's it? Ryan, you start.
Oh fuck! Why me?
Yeah, well, you're a food guy. You know more about food.
Yeah, I like there's this Portuguese like potato and kale soup.
This guy.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's really obscure. You probably never heard of it. Yeah, it's Portuguese potato and kale soup. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. I like ramen. Favorite soup. Ramen, tomato, ramen, different kind of ramen. Yeah. So tonkatsu, tomato soup, then shoyu ramen. What else?
Pho.
Pho, yeah, pho's dope. I'm actually not crazy about pho.
Oh.
I recognize that pho is very well respected, and I get it. It's cool. I don't like anise, man.
Oh.
My mom used to make these cookies, these anise cookies with cinnamon and stuff, and I think those are amazing. And now whenever I eat pho and it has anise, and I'm like, cookies. What's your favorite soup?
Me, I like Chinese oxtail soup.
Oxtail soup is dope.
So
yeah.
Tomato, onions, carrots.
Oh, here I'm going to Ryan out a little bit. There was this Venezuelan restaurant. It was called Viva Arepa back in Edmonton. And every Sunday, chef would make this. It was like oxtail and short rib. He would make this clear soup with all this fat on top. And it was the hottest liquid I have ever consumed in my life. And it was so good. If you're in Edmonton and Viva, I don't even know if they're still open. I hope they are. Viva Arepa is still around. Go try Chef Sunday soup. Mwah. I don't know what it's called. It was really good, though.
Chris Armitage has a serious question for us. Is there a sexier voice on YouTube? I don't think so.
Oh, absolutely not, Chris. I don't think there's a sexier voice on YouTube. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the dope question.
Yeah. Any more questions, guys?
Yeah. If you got more questions, spell them out. If you have, blanked on your question, and we turn off the channel and we say goodbye, then you can always email us. You can email us at hello@knifewear.com. You can email me at owen@knifewear.com. You can email complaints to Chris with a K, K-R-I-S @knifewear.com. He is a complaint sponge. He loves them, and he's so professional when he's dealing with them. Yeah. Yeah. He's our Edmonton punching bag. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for watching. Thanks for showing up and tuning in, guys. We really like doing this class here every Thursday night. It's a great way for me to break up the week and get to sort of get back to the basics and remind myself of all these fundamentals. And I really appreciate you guys coming and checking us out. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. I believe it's at 3 p.m. our time. So that'd be 4 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yeah.
You can figure your own time zone out. You're all adults out there, unless you're not, in which case you can still do it. Naoto will cover all of like the primary bevel sharpening, single bevel sharpening, all the dorky stuff. It's a 2-hour class, so buckle in, buckaroos. We've also got our new episode of Sharp Knives Rock coming out next Monday. You can catch that live on our YouTube channel. We've also, as per usual, got Japanese Knives 101 with Lordy and Kevin, and that's on Tuesdays. Check out our full schedule on our Instagram page, Facebook page, and our YouTube page. We always have great content coming down the pipe, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Any more questions there before we sign off?
Oh, well, we actually have a new Discord.
Of course. I should mention the Discord again. Yeah, come say hi to us on Discord. Everybody's on there, more or less. We have all sorts of channels for sharpening and for cooking and for music. So if you just want to chat with us, if you have questions about knives, more than happy to help you out there. So yeah, if you've never used Discord before, it's an internet thing. Discord. That's all I know about it. Is it like a Tumblr?
It's like Skype and blogs mixed
It's
together.
like a chat room.
Chat room and like a forum.
Do you need a disc?
No.
Is there anything to Jenga? Dice? Join us on Discord.
Join us,
Yeah,
Discord.
join us on Discord. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.